Hey, what's going on, bosses? So today I just wanted to cover a little bit about the Jets' injuries that have been going on this season so far, right? We've been pretty notorious for even when we bring in like a highly decorated free agent, we draft somebody that everybody, arguably agrees is going to be a very valuable talent, someone that either develops, extremely quick, or we see immediate production out of them that's kind of top tier. And we're notorious for them getting injured, and we lose them for an extended period of time. We're talking like 4 to 6 weeks or longer in a season, or we lose them for the entire tenure of that season. And we just seen somewhat of the same trend. It was a pretty rough week. Carl Lawson goes down, right? We got some more recent injury news with Mekhi Becton being in concussion protocols. Elijah Vera just kind of coming back, but he was out basically all of training camp. So the thing that's been floating around is the Jets are essentially injury prone, but it's kind of like the same old Jets thing, which is kind of ironic because it's the only thing I've really heard of the entire offseason. There's been so much positive change that this is only really like the one kind of lasting holdover constant. I've kind of tried to take it all with a grain of salt. The way I kind of see it is it's great to have all this positive momentum, all these amazing changes by Robert Saleh in the front office with Joe Douglas. But how much can you really expect things to change in a short few couple months, right? Let's give Robert Saleh a real off season. Let's get him another draft under the books, another free agent class before we try to make him the next. I don't want to say Herm Edwards, himself, but like a Bill Parcells or somebody. But I did want to kind of review. It got me thinking, how bad is the actual injuries that we're suffering now compared to what we seen, last year at least. So we have a new athletic care and performance department that got developed by Joe Douglas prior to Robert Saleh coming, I believe, just a couple months before he actually showed up. And the cool thing was, I believe we've always had the building itself, but it might not have been used to the maximum capacity is being used now. But the athletic care and performance department is being overled by an awesome team. There's kind of 5 top tier people, and then of course whatever crews they assembled under them. But this team has been developed to one kind of address the injury concerns that we might be affected by, either due to conditioning, due to the diet habits, due to the weight structure program that they're going to be on for strength and conditioning. Um, they're kind of putting a real focus around that when it comes to data science, because it's kind of hard to argue that, at least when it comes to the body. We've done enough research over the last 100 years to sort of have a pretty strong viewpoints on what's the best way to build muscle, build speed, etc. So we can pretty much trust in that. It looks like we brought in some really top tier people. So we have Dr. Brad Dewees, I believe is the name to say it. He's coming on as the director of high performance, meaning he's going to pretty much oversee the entire program. I'm sure he'll probably have like a specialized role in whatever he has his doctorates and PhDs and stuff in, but he's overseeing the operation as director of high performance. We have Mike Nicolini, head strength and conditioning coach. He was with the 49ers from 2018 to 2020, I believe. And, we've seen how well they seem to have been prep conditioned and prepared for things. Dr. Matt Sams, he's going to be the director of sports science. We have Dr. Robert Salzman. He's the assistant director of high performance, essentially just under Deweese. And then we have Dr. Omar Ahmad, and he's essentially under Mike Nicolini as the assistant head assistant strength and conditioning. So Deweese, from what I've seen, I checked out some of the backgrounds for some of the people we were bringing in that were overseeing. Deweese seems really legit. So I guess previously he served as the assistant director for sports performance at East Tennessee State. But prior to that, he was kind of decorated for writing a lot of articles regarding, optimal conditioning, strength training, building speed, just kind of the optimal process for how a player can go about that. And he was the head of sports physiology. He actually oversaw the United States Olympic winter team, I believe it was. or winter committee division, something to that effect. But he ended up essentially assisting in, overseeing and assisting in winning. I think it was like 7 world championship titles. I did write a couple notes down. Yeah, basically 7 world championship titles over like 3 different notes. 21 Olympic and world championship medals. He has 100 plus medals in World Cup and Pan American competition. So he's done very, very, very well for himself. You'd have to imagine it's hard. You would see I think the coaches kind of play a background when it comes to like those high level Olympic level sports and stuff. But I used to love watching like the Netflix documentaries and stuff for those. It just gave a lot of insight. It's really interesting to see from like the coaching side of things. But he overlaid like a really top tier unit. And I think it's even harder, especially coming from like Jersey myself. Training in the winter, dealing in those cold conditions, I think is much worse than dealing with heat. You have the heat exhaustion, kind of the burnout there quicker, but with the cold, it's just so much more muscles tensing up, less blood flow. Might have to potentially worry about, what is it called, dealing with hypothermia and things like that. So it's just a whole different type of beast, and he's excelled at that top tier level. I think is really awesome. As for some of the others, again, Nicolini being with the 49ers from 2018 to 2020, so there's definitely overlap there between Robert Saleh and Joe Douglas. Dr. Ahmad, he came over from Richard Bland College. Looks like he was the assistant director of athletics and sports over there. Dr. Salzman, looks like he was the director of applied performance at Missouri, and Dr. Sams was a performance science analyst, and it's for, I want to say, somewhat of the more well-known Kansas City Royals. After people making a big deal about Mahomes kind of buying into the brand over there. So we brought in some really top-notch people. I'm really excited for it. As for the injury history itself, so I looked up some stuff. I'm going to show you guys, or at least run through anyways, the injury reports and stuff that we had from the year prior in 2020. So by the start of the season, so September 13th, and we're pretty much coming right up on the same time frame, we had Kyron Brown. He was a D-back. He was put on, looks like physically unable to perform list essentially the entire season. Cameron Clark was on injured reserve. Josh Doxson was on injured reserve. Joe Flacco was out due to the neck for those first couple of weeks. Bryce Hall was out on injured reserve. Leo Kolomatangi, they were out, pretty much a reserve player there. Alex Lewis was questionable. Marcus May was questionable. We had Denzel Mims, who was out. C.J. Mosley. Well, he started the season anyways, and then the injury came pretty quick. Like LaMichael Perrine was out, or P. Ryan. I've been hearing both, but I think it's P. Ryan. Jeff Smith was on injured reserve. Vincent Smith was on injured reserve. Avery Williamson was out, and then Jabari Zuniga was out. So quite a bit of injuries. I kind of tried to deep dive a little bit and kind of remember what it was. Some of the injuries weren't really listed. A couple of hamstrings, so like soft tissue stuff. A couple of guys that got signed with injuries, and we kind of expected there to be a progression. But all in all, the injury history in and of itself, what happened between mini camp, training camp, leading up to the season, preseason, everything, it wasn't extremely crazy, but we lost a lot of critical guys. So I think the narrative around the Jets just losing plenty of people isn't necessarily true. It's more so the fact that we lost a lot of key people. I mean, if you kind of heard the list, Bryce Hall, we thought might have been a big contributor, potentially coming in just due to what the cornerback group looked like. Who else do we have? Alex Lewis. We know he was going to be an important piece. Marcus May was critical, especially with us just having, off-boarded Jamal Adams. Denzel Mims, we thought he was going to be a critical piece. Second rounder, you definitely expect immediate contributions 9 times out of 10. C.J. Mosley, that hurt, but that was in game, so I wouldn't necessarily count that. Michael P. Ryan was out with the ankle. Jeff Smith, not so much. Vincent Smith, I would say, might have been a blow. We've seen him kind of have some sparks here and there when he definitely gets those opportunities. But Avery Williamson, Jabari Zuniga, we thought he might be able to do something being, was he a third, or I want to say it was a 4th-round draft pick for us during that draft. Jock Dawson was out. Cameron Clark got injured. Kyron Brown wasn't so much, and then Joe Flacco came in with it. But even leading up to this year, I would say the injuries may be a little bit more legit. The thing that I want to say to keep in perspective is we just developed this athletic care and performance department. It's going to take a while for that training to take effect and stuff. I know they're optimizing it for, immediate results as best as possible, but we kind of have to temper expectations. I think give it, till next season for sure. They have this whole season long to kind of perfect things. As much as you can say perfect, is only a year, really not even that. But they have this whole year to perfect things. They'll continue to build on it. I'm really interested to see what kind of gains we think we see because we definitely brought in a lot more speed. We brought in a lot more muscle on the defensive line, at least before the injuries hit. The linebacker core looks redeveloped. We have Hamza Nasruddin, Jamian Sherwood back there, CJ Mosley, Brad Dewees when he comes back. There's a lot of, amazing players from a physical standpoint that can come in there and really bring those contributions. And we're not even talking about, vets or 3 or 4 year players. We're talking rookies, maybe sophomores at best for the majority of it. So they also haven't, had a full off season of, NFL conditioning, at least a full year long thing, right? But jumping into the injuries, we have Sequon Hampton, the safety. He was out in May. Lawrence Cager in May. Parker Ferguson, the tackle, in June. Kyle Phillips in June. Ashton Davis since July. Kyle Phillips in July. Teton Salts, we picked him up as an undrafted free agent. He got injured in August. Chuma Edoga went down second week of August. Quinnen Williams we knew about. Ryan Griffin, he ended up being questionable. Cameron Clark on injured reserve. Zane Lewis more recently, and then, Mims, Mike White, Connor McDermott, Ronald Blair pulled up on here. We know what happened to him more recently. Carl Lawson with his injury. LaMichael P. Ryan. I got Vinny Curry, who's on here, mixed up with Ronald Blair, but Ronald Blair ended up having, somewhat of a tweak as well. And I believe it was to his hamstring. And then Corey Valentine more recently, at least as of yesterday, he ended up being on injured reserve due to the knee. So I think if I haven't taken a look at the last 2 to 3 years since I don't think it's necessarily going to help us as much. The Adam Gase era was completely wild. But overall, I think when I do recall what the injuries have been, there have been a lot of soft tissue. So, I don't want to praise it as excitement or anything, but at least with the legit injuries that we're seeing now, the long-term injured reserves, we're talking, 6 to 8 weeks being out, extended period of times. It's, concussions, which are bound to happen. It's, severe knee injuries, an ACL tear, something like that, right? Something where we know at least there was, a strong, a move that maybe didn't go correctly. Somebody misstepped, went too strong, went too fast. Maybe, they just haven't practiced that kind of variation of movement like that too often. And they went down, as opposed to, people tweaking a hamstring, people tweaking a groin, a calf, tightening up on somebody, and we're seeing that being a year-long progression. So hopefully you guys thought this was helpful. I really am interested to know what you guys think about the injury history. Do we feel like it's getting better? Do we feel like it's getting worse? Are we taking a step back? Are you guys surprised by what's happened with the athletic care and performance department? I'll probably drop in a thumbnail what the building actually looks like, because it's really dope looking. It kind of looks like a university itself, so I'm definitely expecting big things. But again, leave your comments and leave your thoughts in the comments below, and appreciate you guys with all the support, checking it out. Otherwise, looking forward to more interesting content. So until then, peace.